How's it going, everybody? Adrian Simple here, and welcome back to the Gaming Observer for Tuesday, July 14th. Truthfully, there wasn't a tremendous amount of news today, so some of today's stories are ones that I wasn't able to get to yesterday, but nonetheless, it should be a good show, so let's jump in. Microsoft Flight Simulator is going to be officially launching on August 18th. So that's going to be on PC, as well as the PC version of the Xbox Game Pass, and it is going to be on the Xbox console at some point. Now, the game is going to have 3 versions that you can purchase, but it's super simple. Basically, the game includes every single airport in the world, which is roughly 37,000 of them, but that's generated by whatever algorithms they are using in combination with Bing Maps. You know, the whole world is generated that way. However, 40 of the most famous airports in the world have been given specific handcrafted attention. So you can buy the standard edition of the game for the usual $60, and that gets you access to 30 of those 40 handcrafted airports and 20 different planes. This is also the version that you get to play on the Game Pass. Then if you want, you can spend $80 for the Deluxe Edition, which gives you 5 additional planes and airports, and then $110 for the Premium Edition, which is another 5 of each. I know a lot of people have been anticipating this one, they love their planes, and certainly I'll at least be taking a look when it hits Game Pass. I mean, it's a classic game, right? And the 2020 version of it looks absolutely beautiful, so I'm looking forward to it. According to Video Games Chronicle, Ubisoft has completely rebooted their game Skull and Bones, which is why we haven't heard anything about it recently. They first announced Skull and Bones in 2017 as an open-world pirate game, inspired by the naval battles of Assassin's Creed Black Flag. And originally, it was just gonna be like all the other Ubisoft open-world games and the things that you usually see in them. Games like Far Cry and The Division and Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed. But sometime last year, they decided to just reboot the game entirely. They changed creative leadership, but more notably, they are moving it to a live service game. So it's going to have a persistent world and a storyline that will evolve and change over time with community involvement, which apparently was inspired by the kind of thing that Fortnite is doing. That means it's probably going to be competing with Sea of Thieves for that kind of, niche. Now, I don't know if we are going to hear about the game at the next Ubisoft event or not, but if this was a true reboot of the game, then it probably won't be coming for another few years, considering how long it takes to develop a video game. Speaking of Ubisoft, they are currently giving away Watch Dogs 2 for free. Completely free. All you have to do is sign into their website and claim your copy for PC. The original plan was that this was only going to be available to nab during their latest conference, but nobody was able to log in. They were all having issues, so they just decided to extend the timeline. And hey, I actually heard pretty decent things about the sequel after the disappointing launch of the first game, so definitely go check that out. Especially with Watch Dogs Legion around the corner, that's coming on October 29th. Now's a better time to jump in than any. Hey, just a heads up that apparently the Death Stranding port for PC is perfectly playable and worth taking a look at. The game should be available today, and here's what Digital Foundry has to say about it, quote, "It is a port that we can recommend without hesitation. While there's limited scalability beyond PS4 in terms of visual features, performance is exemplary," end quote. So say what you will about the game, which, let's be honest, has had pretty polarizing opinions, at least the port is playable and the game looks good. If you are thinking about picking it up, though, you should definitely read into what the game actually is before you get it, because it has turned a lot of people away for various reasons, and it's good to know about them going in. Hideo Kojima is an enigma of a man and a game designer, and that certainly was not abated by starting a brand new studio with their debut game. Anyway, folks, that is going to wrap us up for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. And hey, I'm going to be back with the after show right after this, and I return with the news tomorrow. So until next time, happy gaming, everyone. Hey, it's the TGO After-Show. Welcome. You know, Ubisoft is a really interesting one when you look at them kind of at a macro scale, because, you know, they're a major corporation. They make tons and tons of money, And you kind of look at them in the same light as something like EA or Activision Blizzard. Because, I mean, the company is huge, but also just in terms of the games that they make, it can often feel just as, I don't want to say surface level, but formulaic, I guess. And that isn't to say that Activision Blizzard games are formulaic, but it's just kind of what you come to expect when it comes to a major corporation or a AAA game studio, which isn't necessarily favored in the public eye. But if you kind of just take a look at the moves that they have made in the past couple of years, or let's say in the last year, they delayed a number of their games even before the coronavirus ever hit us. All of the major IPs that they had planned for release this year and maybe last year, they all got pushed to next year and the year after. And that included games like Skull and Bones and Gods and Monsters, Watch Dogs Legion. That's not something that EA or Activision Blizzard would have done. They would have just released the game, or told everybody to crunch until it was done. Which, you know, Ubisoft might be crunching, I don't know, but... Then you can look at a move that they made just a few days ago, which was essentially that... You know, there was a bunch of abuse allegations against a number of people within the company, and that included the lead creative, basically the number 2 of the company underneath Yves Guillemot, which, according to all of the journalists that I've read, was a major surprise that this guy was actually just let go. A number of top executives within the company have left. They've either been fired or suspended or have resigned, whatever it is. And apparently this guy who was, the lead of creative and the one who managed all of the games and all the projects and everything, everyone thought he was untouchable. They thought there was, no matter what the allegation was or what kind of proof came out, basically this guy was set in that position for life. And that's by no means to say that Ubisoft is perfect. Obviously, those people shouldn't have been in those positions in the first place, and there's plenty of examples of the culture at Ubisoft not being what it should be. But at the same time, there has been no mass exodus of leadership of, other companies like EA, like Activision Blizzard. At least none that come to the top of my mind, anyway. And probably none that have been as publicized as Ubisoft has made it, at least in the last 2 years that I've been doing this show and reading the headlines every day. And again, all of this is with the caveat that I'm kind of just talking at the top of my mind here. This is very surface level thinking. I'm not diving too deep into this. I'm sure you could pick apart everything I'm saying and find examples that are contrary and whatnot, but I just find it interesting that Ubisoft is in this position of, they're at the same level as EA, but they tend to make these decisions or these public-facing PR moves, I guess, that don't always correlate with what the other companies are doing. But that isn't to say that they are perfect. Anyway, that's going to be all for today. Thanks for indulging me, and I'll be back with both of these shows tomorrow. So until then, farewell.